morning or good afternoon, depending on where you may be joining us from today. And welcome to the BGLiD webinar. Thank you all for joining us today. And for those that don't know me, my name is Andy, and I'm the product manager of CAS 360, and I'll be taking you through the session today. So first of all, this session is being recorded, and every registrant will receive a copy of the recording along with the slides that will be presented today. And if you've got any questions throughout the session, feel free to type them into the Q&A section, and I'll try my best to answer them along the way. And we also have some time for questions at the end as well. Okay, so before I get started with BGLiD, I'd just like to talk a little bit more about BGL's products. The first one, obviously, CAS 360, our company compliance software, which many of you will be connecting or connected to for BGLiD for your secretarial work. And the second one, Simple Fund 360, our SMSF compliance management and administration software. And then Simple Invest 360, which can be used for all of your investment portfolios management. And our newest product, Smart Docs 360, which is an AI-powered paper-to-data solution that you should really check out and have a look at. Okay, let's move on and have a look at BGLiD. In today's session, I'm going to talk a bit about what BGLiD is. And if this is the first time that you've seen BGLiD, you will learn a bit about how it all works and why you should use BGLiD. I'll also talk about what's new to BGLiD and what we've added to BGLiD over the last few months. And I'll also run through a demonstration as well. And then I'll talk about a little bit about what's next and like what's coming in 2025 for BGLiD, and also pricing, which is always one of the important questions to all of us. So first of all, what is BGLiD? So the word ID pops up everywhere and all the time nowadays, but BGLiD is not just a buzzword or a catchphrase. It is a legitimate service for client identity verification. It focuses on verifying the identity documents of your clients. And because it's made by BGL, we've designed it specifically for accounting firms and accounting practices. What we're really trying to do is, instead of being an ID verification service that is everything to everyone, we wanted to really specify that it focuses on accounting practices and the requirements of accounting practices. So it can be dedicated towards accounting firms. And BGLiD is actually built into your BGL applications. It's built into CAS 360. It is a separate application built by BGL, but you can access it directly within CAS 360. So you don't need to access or install another software application just for this. It's all connected into CAS 360. And because of this, all the ID verification data can be linked to the contacts in CAS 360 as well. So not only will those contacts have all the company and trust relationship information, they will also have all their identity verification information as well. This also includes AML screening and other things like that. It will be coming to Simple Fund 360 and Simple Invest 360 very soon. So our team have been working on that over the last few months. So hopefully soon you will be able to initiate those checks within Simple Fund 360 and Simple Invest 360 as well. So one of the advantages of all of this being built into BGL product is there's no extensive setup or new training required. It will feel like it's just another new feature within those applications. And yeah, you just need to basically add a payment method to your existing BGL products to start using it. If you've already got a credit card or a direct debit set up uh, in your existing BGL products, like Cash 360, it will use that method. And for BGL ID, we bill at the first day of the next month for all the checks that you've done in the previous month. So that means now it's February. So all the checks that I've done in February, it will all be grouped together and charged on the first day of March. So overall, it's really very easy to get started to use BGLiD in Cash 360. Okay, next I want to talk a little bit about how BGLiD works. When it comes to identity verification, there are a lot of products in the market. And this might sound a little bit odd to you, but not all of them do the same thing. With BGLiD, what we have really focused on and what some other apps might not focus on that much is verifying the documents with the issuer. What we've done with BGLiD is we've built an integration effectively with, for Australia, it's the DVS, Document Verification Service in Australia. And for New Zealand, it is the Department of Internal Affairs. So we directly verify the identification information with the issuer. For Australia, we can verify passports, we can verify driver's licenses, and we can verify Medicare cards. So these are the three main sources of ID verification that you can do with BGLiD. And with passports and driver licenses, they're really important because they are like an ID with photo. So with those IDs, you're able to have a little bit more extensive check, and that's where biometrics come into play with those documents. So when a new client joins your practice today, as per the TPP requirements in Australia, there is an ID verification requirement. So there is a requirement for you to check the ID of your potential new client. And of course, there are many ways that you can satisfy this requirement. For example, one of them is get them to have a meeting in your office and physically look at their ID. So you can do a physical check of the ID, or a more simple way is you can use BGLiD to actually verify that the ID is a legitimate ID and it has been verified by the issuer. So that's really, really where the important part of the ID verification comes in is we are verifying with the issuer that the passport or driver's license or the Medicare card is actually issued by them. So we're not just doing some sort of scan to like check the format and see how it looks, if it looks legitimate. So we're not just passing it because it looks like it's a legitimate ID. We actually verify the information with the source. And also every single BGLiD verification completes AML screening as well. So AML stands for anti-money laundering. And in some of the regions, for example, New Zealand, this is a mandatory check. And maybe it might become mandatory in Australia in the future as well. And so what our AML screening include is PEP, a politically exposed person check. So does that individual have a high position or potential exposure in a high government position? And also the global sanctions and watch list screening. So are there any global sanctions on this particular individual? So certainly if you're dealing with individuals from overseas or um, like other regions, people that have been overseas, have done business overseas, is there potential sanction on that person? So it's a global sanction checklist. And what we're also able to do is complete an adverse media screening. So there is an additional cost for this, but you are able to do adverse media screening. So it will find any articles that mentions the individual that you're checking. It will go through a whole media screening of that individual. So what we're actually doing at the back end is checking if there's any media databases or articles that is flagged for PEP or global sanctions. And you also get a link to that article as well. So if there's any adverse media on that individual, you will get a link to that media article. You will be able to actually read that media article. So these links to the article are really important when it comes to dealing with individuals with common names. So let's say if you've got a client named John Brown. So chances are there's many, many John Browns in the world, and some of them might not have done something that good. So maybe they were listed in one of those adverse medias. So you'll be able to go through those media articles and just check and make sure it is referring to the individual that you're checking. And all these checks are done through our provider, Frankie One. Frankie One is also an Australian business, but they're also a very big player in the ID verification and AML checks. You also receive an instant result when you do the checks as well. So it doesn't take like half an hour or 10 minutes. You actually receive an instant result coming into Cash 360 with all the information that I mentioned above. So was the ID verified? Did it pass or fail? And were there any, are they listed in any global sanctions list? So all those information, you would get that instantly. And it also comes through in a report format as well. So you get on-screen results and you also get a report where you can export. So with BGLiD, we have implemented two types of verifications. We understand that in practices, there might be different methods in where you're collecting the data. So I know some practices might not want to keep any of these ID information. They just don't want to store any of this information at all. Or some other firms might be have uh, policies about collecting data. So I guess more than anything, it's like different tolerances to how much data you're willing to keep on file. So what we've developed is two different types of ways to complete an identity verification. The first one we've got is request ID verification. So this is the one that I'll be showing in the demonstration later. Using the request ID verification, this is where BGLiD will send an email to your client requesting them to enter their ID information and complete the verification themselves. So the data will not come through to your Cash 360 account. You will only receive the result of the ID verification. So that means you're able to get your clients to verify their identity documents without you ever touching that document and storing and recording that document. So if that's a really important element for you, then this might be the way you can go with. And option two is like the opposite. This is where you're actually able to key in the identity data in Cash 360. So if you've got the ID information, you can key that into your Cash 360 database and simply click Verify ID from the software, which will then send those information to our provider to run through all those checks, and then you get an instant result. So this is a great way to verify the ID if, let's say, the client is in your office. So if that client is sitting in your office today in front of you, so what you can do is say, hey, let me check your driver's license. Then you can just take the driver's license from them and you can physically see the driver's license. And then you can come in to type in those information into the system and then send that off for the check. So it really comes down to which direction your practice wants to take. But our BGLiD has built the process for both. So you can use whichever way you want. And for both methods, obviously, consent is very important when you're doing ID verification checks. When you're running an ID check for an individual, you need to get the consent from them first. And for BGLiD, when you're sending it through the request ID verification process, the consent is built into that as well. So what's important is if you are using the request ID verification, like I said before, BGLiD does not store the identity data in any BGL products. If you use the request ID verification, what you will actually receive back is um, you will receive that the results were verified. You will get the results or a document or report that tells you uh, which ID your client used to verify. Did they use a driver's license or did they use the passport? And we actually give you the expiry date of that ID as well. Because for some of the regions, the law is that uh, you might have to re-verify that after a new ID is issued. So you get the results, a pass or a fail. Uh, you get what type of source document they used and the expiry date. So that's all the information that you will receive as part of the request ID verification flow. You will never actually receive the passport numbers or the driver's license numbers. And what's also important is we do give you the verified name of that particular person and the verified date of birth. So if that particular person's name happened to be different to the name that they gave you, that would be highlighted in the results and shown to you. So for example, like people might have preferred name or legal names. They might have given you their preferred name instead of their legal name. So this is also one of the things that will be highlighted in the report. And for AML and PEP and the news information, this will also be received and saved into Cache360 as well. So these will be stored into Cache360 linked to your contact because these are like public information. So these were fine to store. These won't be affected by any of those requirements. Okay, so yep, if you've got any questions or anything that you want to know more about, feel free to type that into the Q&A. So I'll try to answer the questions along the way. Okay, what I want to talk about next is what we've added to BGLiD recently. So BGLiD isn't just a simple ID verification service. We've actually added a lot of features and things around it so you can uh, satisfy those requirements easier and more effectively. So first of all, we implemented a feature called automatic retry. This means if your client goes through their ID verification process using the request information flow, so the first flow, and for example, they've typed in a wrong number or like entered a wrong information. So it's actually quite common for people to type in wrong IDs or wrong numbers. So if you've typed the wrong ID number, of course, the ID verification process will fail because it's not a legit number. What this automatic retry process will do is the system will automatically email your client that their ID verification was unsuccessful. And in that email, they will also get a link to retry their ID verification. And this retry can be done at no cost to you. So no extra cost will be charged to your practice. So I know some ID providers might charge you twice in that instance because they charge per check. But with BGLiD, we give you 2 tries. So there's 2 tries for a client to get their ID verification done. And we've also added Medicare verification throughout the year. And we also added the ability to have 2 source document verification. So when you are requesting your client to verify their ID, you can choose if you want them to verify 1 document or 2 documents. And for New Zealand clients, we've added New Zealand driver license verification. So you can now use New Zealand driver's license as a verification source as well. Okay. And we've also added a number of BGLiD reports. So if you're able to run reports, this is sort of across the whole BGLiD application. So you can run listing reports and get a list of all your IDs. And we've also added support for biometric scanning, which I'll explain a little bit more after. We've also added result sharing to Simple Fund 360 and Simple Invest 360. If you're using Cache360 and other BGL products like Simple Fund 360 and Simple Invest 360, and if you've got Cache360 and Simple Fund 360 or Simple Invest 360 integrated, you will see the ID results in the contact screen in Simple Fund 360 or Simple Invest 360 as well. Okay, biometric scanning. So let's talk a little bit about biometric scanning in BGLiD, because this again is a really powerful feature and a really powerful way of verifying IDs for your clients. So the first thing to understand is with BGL, the biometric scanning It is a second authentication that we have added. So it's something that we've done to try to continue the existing product. The existing ID verification with the DVS and then added a biometric scan on top of that. And that's really important because some providers will do one and maybe not the other. But with BGLiD, we really focus on delivering both. So the BGLiD biometric scan at its first level, it will still verify the ID document with the DVS or the DIA in New Zealand. So it will verify the ID document with the issuer. So you will know that it is a legitimately issued ID document. That's step one. And then we have added a biometric scanning on top of that. So with biometric scan, this is exactly how it works. And I'm going to show in the demo. The source documents or driver's license or passport, then your client is required to take a photo of those. Take a photo of those documents. So driver's license, front and back, and then passport, just the photo page. And then they're required to take a selfie. So what happens is with this, when the selfie comes in, there is a check. And there's like 24 data points that are checked as part of this biometric scan. So the two ID images and then the selfie and the image on the source documents are matched. And we basically check those 24 data points and we provided you with a result. So you get a result across that. So it checks if the person is consistent with their selfie and their ID photo. There are also some checks that are done on the document itself. So if there is, like signs of fraud, so if the passport might have, like you can see, like tearing, or maybe the photo doesn't look centered, things like that. This is also done as part of that biometric scanning as well. So you don't only get the government ID verification, you will also get the biometric scan result as well. So they come in as separate results. So with BGLiD, there's obviously some really important benefits. There's simple access and no locking contracts. You pay as you go, and you don't have to commit to a minimum. And it's also supported by the BGL support team as well. Okay, so yeah, these are the benefits that you will get when you use BGLiD. Okay, so I guess that's enough of text and talking. Let's have a look at a demo. So obviously I won't be using my ID in this demo, so I've got a video of this. Yeah, I'm just not ready to publicly showing all of you my driver license. Okay, so let's go. So in Cache 360, in the contact screen or in different places that links to a contact, you will see this request ID verification button there. So you click on that one. And then you will be shown a list of different levels of checks that you can do. So I'll choose this one, AU government ID and biometrics check. And then you will be brought to this preview email screen. So this is an email that will go out to your client. So this email, just like any other emails that you use in CashXT, is a customizable email template. So if you want to make it like an email that's legitimately from your firm, you can add in your firm's logo, your firm's styling and stuff. So these are all customizable. Okay, so once the email's sent, that's all you need to do in your end. The request has now been sent to your client, and now you just have to wait till your client has done their part. So this is where your clients will get the email. So this is what your clients will see. They will receive an email like this and with a link that links them to the website for them to do the identification. So for security, there is a two-factor authentication just to make sure they are the one that is intended to receive this email. Okay, straight to the biometric scanning part. So if they're already on a phone, they can put their mobile phone, like scan that. So this is the consent. So we make sure that your client will see this consent and they have to accept that before they can continue. And then you can choose what document you want to scan. So this is a driver license, for example. That's not a real one, by the way, so don't have to screen cap that and try. It won't work if you try with this one. Okay, so now you've taken the photo of the license, front and back, full driver's license. Okay, once that's done, then it will ask your client to take the selfie. So it's the stuff where you have to like look left, look right, look up, look down. Once that's done, it will then send that photo to the provider to make the check. And now that the biometric scanning is done, so all the details should now be received by the provider to run that scan. And then your clients are now done with that process. So once your client has submitted that information, you will receive a notification back into Cash 360. So inside Cash 360, you will see your notification. So like I said, it's an instant notification. As soon as your client has done the check, you will receive that notification. And because we're using dummy data, so it comes back showing as failed. So from the notification, you can click on that view, which is a shortcut that will bring you to the contact screen. So there is a compliance tab that we will list out all those check results. And we've also got the ID verification report. So as you can see, it's very simple to use and set up. So as you can see, so for you to trigger that request, it's really just 2 or 3 buttons. And for your client to verify the ID, it's also just a few clicks and a few photos and selfies. Okay, so that's how it works. So you can see the demo is quite short because that's how simple the process is. Okay, next let's talk about pricing. So here I've got the Australian pricing and the New Zealand pricing listed here. So for different levels of check, there's different prices. So the basic Australian government ID check, for example, is $7 plus GST. And if you're doing government ID plus biometric check, then it will be $10 plus GST, for example. So it's all listed here. It's also listed in our website as well. So if you want to look at it again later, you can go to our website and it will all be listed in there. Okay, so what's next for BGLiD? So BGLiD biometrics is in beta, so it's already available that can be used, but you might not see it in your system yet because we are in beta stage. But if you're interested and would like to use biometrics now, feel free to email us. So I'll show my email at the end. Let us know, and then we'll put you on the beta list so you'll be able to start using BGLiD biometrics straight away. And we're expecting to release this biometric feature to everyone early 2025, so pretty soon. And we're also working on integration with more applications, for example, Simple Fund 360 and Simple Invest 360. So that means you will soon be able to send a request ID verification directly from Simple Fund 360 or Simple Invest 360 as well. Okay, if there's any questions, feel free to type that into the Q&A and feel free to email us as well. This is Warren's email address, but that's okay. You can send email to that as well. I'll be able to see them too. If you're interested to start using BGLiD biometrics today, please email us and we'll get you on the list. Okay, if you've got any questions, feel free to type that into the Q&A and I'll try my best to answer them. And if you don't have any questions, I would like to thank you again for joining us today. And hopefully you find this useful to you and your clients. And we'll talk again very soon. Bye.